Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about something so fundamental to making sure you actually succeed in improving your communication skills. And that is finding the right advice for you. Now, I know that sounds simple, but here's the thing. Most people that are looking for communication advice are looking for the broad, the general tips and tricks that are recommended for everyone. The cookie cutter tips that work in a general sense, but just don't seem to work for you. So stay tuned, and we're going to unpack why they're not working and what you can do instead. Okay, when it comes to your communication, the first thing to really understand is that communication is a super broad thing. It's a super broad domain. There are so many different types of communication styles. But more importantly, there are so many different types of communication contexts. So when you are looking to improve your public speaking, you first need to get really, really clear on what your context is. What type of communication help do you even need? So let me give you an example. Are you someone that is going to be public speaking in the sense that you will be up on stage with 10, 20, 100, 500 people looking at you? Do you need to present in front of a team and you need help with your presentation skills? Are you struggling perhaps in your relationship and you need help talking to your partner? Are you struggling in your business and fighting with your business partner and you need to be able to have those hard conversations around perhaps your finances or things that aren't going well? Are you a coach or someone who works with clients and maybe things aren't going well in your client meetings? Maybe you're having a very hard time leading the meeting. Maybe you're having a very hard time having the client listen to what you're saying or take your advice and see you as the expert. Keeping this in mind, can you see how the general cookie cutter tips that you would get for someone who's public speaking would not be applicable to someone who's trying to convince their client to take their advice? They're just completely different things. It's like if you were going to the gym and you wanted to train, you might go on YouTube, you might go on Google, you might download a fitness app, and then you would be faced with the choices of what type of workout do I want to do? Do I want to do cardio? Do I want to do Pilates? Do I want to do strength training? Do I want to do weightlifting? Do I want to run a marathon? The possibilities are endless. That is the exact same thing with communication advice, communication tips, and communication strategies. So, step number one, keep in mind the specific context that you are looking for support in. Okay, that's step one. Step two, find targeted advice that will help you for your situation. So, this is where having clarity around what you are having a hard time with, what you're struggling with, what is not going well will help. But that's where you also need clarity on what you want to achieve. If you are someone who is looking for public speaking support and you are going to present on stage in front of a group of 40 of your colleagues, okay, now you know your domain, your context is public speaking. What is it that you are perhaps struggling with a little bit, and what is it that you want to achieve? Are you struggling with anxiety? Are you having a very hard time with your nerves to the point where the nerves may be debilitating and you feel like you just can't even go on stage because your hands are shaking? That needs a specific type of advice. What's the outcome that you're looking for? Do you want to public speak with confidence? Do you want to public speak with clarity and conciseness? Do you want to create the best presentation to supplement the talk that you want to give? What is it that you want? Get clarity on both things so that you're looking for the right advice to help you and the right advice to guide you to the point of where you want to be. Because if you're someone who's looking for public speaking advice, you may read advice about what to do before the presentation. You may read advice about what to do during the presentation. You may read advice about how to be engaging, how to ask hypothetical questions, how to structure your talk to optimize it for the audience. But that may not help you with the nerves. So, finding the right advice for you and the right advice for what you want is what will help you streamline the process and make sure that you're getting the right tips for you. Okay. So let's use our other example. Let's say you are working with a client and you're having a very hard time guiding the conversation where perhaps there's no structure, perhaps there's no clarity, perhaps the client keeps asking questions and throwing you off and you just don't know what to do. Okay. That may be the problem. But what is it that you want? Do you want to learn how to structure the conversations? Do you want to learn how to politely tell people no and redirect the conversation? Do you want to learn how to have hard conversations so that in the moment when something comes up, you're able to hold space for your clients and you're able to help them through the thing that keeps triggering the both of you and derailing the meetings? What is it that you want? Get clarity on both things so that you're not only handling the problem, but you're making sure that you get to the right solution that you are actually looking for. Okay? Once you've done step one, once you've done step three is implementation. Not all advice is right for all people. Okay? Everyone has a different learning style. Everyone has different preferences. Everyone has different beliefs, different perspectives, different ideas of what is right, what is wrong, what is a good way of doing something, what is a bad way of doing something. That is okay. There is no one size fits all. At least that's my personal philosophy. Take the advice that you get for your context, for your problem, for the solution that you would like, and try it on for size. Try it and actually give it a go. You see, when we are first trying something new, it's very easy to dismiss it for not working. It's very easy to say, this isn't it. And that's not giving it a fair chance. So before you do that, give it a chance, give it a moment. Try it out more than once. The first time that you try anything new, it's completely normal to experience resistance. It's completely normal to suck at it at first, for it not to go the way that you expected. That doesn't mean that it won't work. It just hasn't worked yet. Think of a child who's learning to ride a bicycle. It's hard. It takes practice, it takes repetition, but it's that will to learn to ride the bicycle, is that desire to ride the bike that gets them to do it with the repetition, with the practice, with the support. We're no different. So let's say you are learning some strategies to give structure to the meeting. You've come up with ways to acknowledge what the client has said and to redirect the conversation the way that you want it to go so that there's structure. Well, it's not surprising if the very first time you try it, you feel uncomfortable, you feel awkward, you feel nervous. Maybe you fumble, maybe you say it quietly because that anxiety hits you. Maybe the client doesn't react well to it because it's the first time they've heard you do it and they're so used to being in their own world and directing the conversation with where they want it to go. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it won't work for you. You just have to try it a few more times to give it that realistic chance of, is this for me or is this not for me? Okay. So keeping in mind that everyone is different, everyone has different preferences and different learning styles and all that good stuff, some stuff actually will not be for you. And that is totally fine. It does not mean that there's anything wrong with you. Not at all. It just means that that tip, that piece of advice didn't resonate with you or your beliefs or your values or your way of doing things. That doesn't mean that other advice won't. Okay? So you've narrowed down your context, you've thought about your pain, you've thought about the thing that you want, and then you've found the advice for that, for the pain and for the solution. And then you try it. And you try it, you take some of it, it seems to start to work, you keep it and you keep going with it. It doesn't work, it doesn't align with your values, it feels really icky, you just can't shake the resistance. Not a problem. You leave that piece of advice and you move on to the next one. There are so many things that you can do to improve your communication. So please don't limit yourself by thinking there's only one or two strategies that will work. That's just not the case. There's ample out there for you to improve your communication, no matter what context you are facing, no matter what your challenge is, and no matter what outcome you want for yourself. So don't give up prematurely because you are doing yourself a disservice at that point. persist, stay with it, try something at least 3 to 5 times before you discard it to really give it that fair chance to see whether it was initial resistance, whether it was those initial training wheels you needed to get used to, or whether it's legitimately something that just does not work for you. As an example, many people experience a lot of nerves and anxiety around public speaking, especially when it comes to presenting in front of a group of people. Now, there's a ton of strategies out there for what to do. Some people say to write out a script of the entire presentation and memorize it. Some people say that's the worst thing you should do. Don't ever memorize a script because you will sound robotic and fake. And if you lose your place, you're gone. You can't come back to it. Some people, like myself, recommend a hybrid. Memorize bits and pieces, memorize the key points, practice going out of order so that if someone asks you spontaneous questions and you lose your train of thought, you're able to get back into things. Some people recommend rehearsing 10,000 times in front of the mirror, in front of a camera, in front of your friends, in front of strangers to get those reps in and get rid of the anxiety. Some people recommend deep breathing. Some people recommend jumping around and getting yourself into a peak physical state before the presentation. Some people recommend taking the nerves and the anxiety that you're feeling and telling yourself it's not anxiety, it's excitement. And I can go on. And I hope I've made my point. As you were listening to that list, how many of those things sounded good? How many of those things sounded a little iffy? And how many of those things were just like I don't even know why that's suggested? That's my point. There's so much advice out there, and there's so much advice out there for you that will work. You just may not have found it yet, and that's okay. Don't give up. Keep looking. Just make sure you narrow down exactly what context you're in, exactly what your challenge is, exactly what solution you want, and then go through the different advice, trying it at least 3 to 5 times to give it a fair shot before you discard it and try something else. If you're aware of what your preferences are, if you're aware of what your learning style is, if you're just aware of what you naturally tend to gravitate to, start with those tips, start with those strategies. You can think of communication advice as a menu, the same way you would at a restaurant. When you sit down at a restaurant, let's say you've never been there before and you look at a menu, what do you naturally tend to gravitate towards? Are you an apps person? Do you like soups and salads and dippables? Are you like a gourmet person? Do you love perhaps the chicken sandwiches and you tend to go for anything chicken related? Do you love trying new things and you go for the things you've never heard before? Do you sort of play it safe? Do you always get the same drink everywhere you go? Who are you? What do you prefer? What are your preferences and your styles and your things that you gravitate to? Start with those because those are way more likely to work than the tips and advice that you might read and be like, it is your initial reaction. Don't start there. Start with something that you read and you go, oh, yes, I can do that. And that's the one that you will start with. Okay? I hope you found this helpful. If you did, like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite part of the video was, what your biggest takeaway was. And if you have any requests, any suggestions for future topics, please let me know. Happy to accommodate those. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.